Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the U46 Explore Parent Pre-Event. So today we're going to be giving you a little bit of a preview on what our Explore event is all about, how you can best prepare your young person to take advantage of all the things that we have to offer, and how you can help them plan their path for the next years to come. My name is Mitchell Briesmeister. I'm the Director of Educational Pathways here in the district. And presenting with me today, I have Alexa Charche. She's the lead counselor in the district. And with joining me as well, she's got a little bit of some technical difficulties at the moment, but she'll jump on as soon as she can. We have the Director of the Alignment Collaborative for Education, Nancy Coleman, as well. And we're really excited to be presenting to you today. And we're really glad that you took the time out of your evening to listen to this important information. So here's a quick introduction and our agenda. So these are the things that we're going to go through. We're going to talk a little bit about just what Explore is and how it has evolved throughout the years. How best to have your young person prepare for the event, what they're going to experience the day of the event, how they can utilize Explore to plan for their future courses. And we're also going to have some time for our local businesses to share out how Explore is a true partnership between School District U46 and our surrounding employers and business people. So first of all, a quick overview of what Explore is. Explore is very much a foundational experience for our young people so that they can start exploring college and career pathways. And this is different for each person. We encourage flexibility and learning as much as you can as we go throughout their time with us in the district. And utilizing this event, they can really get a great amount of exposure to some very lucrative opportunities in the Elgin area and also nationwide. So we always are very careful to say that this is not done simply by the district. There's a huge amount of community contribution that allows us to pull off such an enormous event. Without our local business people volunteering to participate and share the wealth of knowledge, there's no way that we would be able to provide such a high value event for our young people. And it's through this partnership that we hope to improve the outcomes for all of our students, leading to really bright futures.
So all of your students are going to be participating in a pre-lesson over the next week or two at their middle school. These are occurring either with their school counselors or with their teachers. During this lesson, they are completing a career cluster finder, which is an assessment that we use through Naviance. It asks students questions about what they like and dislike, activities they like to do, subjects that they're interested in, and it populates clusters of careers that they might be interested in further exploring. And also during that lesson, students are selecting the sessions that they want to attend for the day of the event.
Alexa, could we pause for a second? There's a couple of terms here that I was wondering if we could go over.
Sure.
Can you tell us more about what a career cluster is?
Sure. So actually, if you go to the next slide, I believe there's an example on there. Yes. So when your student completes their career cluster, they're going to be populated a couple different clusters that match what their answers were in the assessment. So an example of a cluster might be hospitality and tourism. And so that's an example of, there's a bunch of different careers that fall under that cluster, but that might be a general area that your student would want to look deeper into, do more research, see what type of careers fall under that. Another easy one that people think of is like medical field or health sciences. So students, there's a lot of things under health science, not just being a doctor or a nurse. So it really covers that wide range of careers that fall within there.
Yeah, that's an awesome explanation. And those that haven't tried out or experienced Naviance yet, what might they expect out of that platform for their young person?
So students can, they'll Naviance over, well, they've started last year in 7th grade, but they'll be using it till they're seniors in high school. And we use Naviance for career research, college research. As they get older, they'll be doing goal setting within the system. They can build resumes, all sorts of different uses for it. Your student will be able to access Naviance through their Clever, which is linked to their U46 Chromebook. So it's a little tile on their Chromebook. They can go to Clever and then log into Naviance from there. So if your student completes this, you can have them log into Naviance, and you can take a look at their outcomes with them. And then once they get these clusters, they can dive a little deeper in here. They can see what careers actually fall within these clusters that they might match with. Mitchell, if you want to go to the next slide. I believe there's an example. Yep. So here's an example of what your student might see in regards to different careers they might be interested in. It tells them what type of education they might need for that career, what their salary is, job outlook, what a person does that's actually in that career. Students are able to favorite these by using that little heart icon at the bottom. And then it actually saves into their profile. So it's something that they can go back and look at later if they would like to.
Thanks, Alexa. That's an awesome explanation. I think the key part about Naviance is that as students continue to explore and take part in various activities, this platform, they'll still have access to it as they continue on their full career with us, so they can continue to evolve their choices and sort of narrow it down and then continue doing more and more research on what they might like to do after high school.
So on the actual day of the event, students are going to go to their first period class and kind of get oriented to the day. And then that's really from periods 2 through 7. They're really jumping into the day and the meat of the day, where they get to listen to different professionals within their careers. So as you can see, that example of a career cluster. So if we look at period 2, you're looking at healthcare, human services, education, and public service. And then we have a couple careers listed under each of those. So we'll have a representative who can talk about each of those careers during that time. So your student during the pre-lesson with their school will be given the opportunity to take a look at this full schedule. And then the nice thing about this is they actually get to pick what they want to see. So if they're interested in education, they can choose that. If they want to go to healthcare, they can choose that one as well. I think, it gives them a lot of opportunities to maybe try out things that they already know they're interested in, but also gives them an opportunity to see things that maybe they don't know as much about quite yet, and they can learn more about during this time.
And just to clarify and restate, we can see that this is matching up with their existing middle school bell schedule. All students will be in school this day, and they will be joining these sessions virtually through Zoom. Okay, so here's some specifics on the day of the event. So the first thing is students are essentially having a regular school day. They'll arrive at the same time and they'll be dismissed at the same time. Transportation will remain the same. Lunch times will remain the same. So we're not going to interrupt anything like that. The first period that the student will be in, they'll work with their teacher to prepare for the day. So they'll be doing some activities, they'll be getting organized, start thinking about some questions that they might have so that they can be ready to put those into the Q&A as they come up. So once again, our students are attending virtually the career sessions from these classrooms, and they will be with teachers. The lunchtime is the normal one. And then as we complete the day, students will have time during that 8th period where the teacher can walk them through a post lesson so that they can start building some meaning around what they saw. They can start having some really in-depth conversations about what they learned about it. Perhaps they learned something about a career that they had never considered before, or they're looking to pivot and try something different. So this is a time where they have an opportunity to build more meaning around it with that teacher, with their peers, and our counselors are providing activities to guide them, to help them make some really great choices as they're going to start signing up for their high school courses. But more of that in a moment. A couple of key logistical pieces that we want to mention here. It's really important that your young person arrives with their Chromebook charged up and ready to go in the morning. We all know that Zoom can drain a battery very quickly, and we do have charging stations and we do have chargers, but even so, it's always the best to start your day with a fully charged Chromebook. Secondly, bring the Chromebook charger with you to school in case it starts running low in one of your sessions. You'll be able to plug it in and get it charged back up. Students will also be charging during lunch so that there's no interruption in them seeing those career sessions. If they have a favorite set of headphones or earbuds that they'd like to use, please have them bring them with. We'll of course have earbuds available for students that do not have them so that they're able to participate. But if they have some special ones that they'd like to utilize, that's fine as well, that are compatible with the Chromebook. On that day, it's important that the students review their sessions so that they know essentially where they're going to be virtually traveling to as they transition from course to course, so they don't miss out on any of the sessions that they had signed up for that they really wanted to see. It's important to test your technology ahead of time. Make sure everything's updated. Make sure the Chromebook is functioning correctly. Make sure your headphones are working, your settings are working correctly, and everything's ready to go before you enter that first session, which is going to be second period. And of course, if they need help, we want to make sure that they ask their teacher now if it's something that they already know of is an issue, or on the day of during that first session as we're getting them oriented to the day. I hope never hurts to ask. Always go ahead and reach out if you need some help, and they'll get the help that they need.
I did want to answer a quick question that we got. There was a question about when the pre-lesson is for Explore. So those are, actually your student might have completed it today, or they're happening within the next week to about a week and a half with their school counselor. So it varies depending on which school you're at, but they're scheduled throughout the next week. So it'll depend for your student. They'll all have a chance to be a part of that. I know some students are going to the library and meeting with their school counselors to complete that activity.
Yes. And so utilizing Explore to plan. So a couple of key pieces that we're going to start pushing out as we work through the things that Explore is going to present. One thing that we have going on right now is the application for our Magnet Academies. So we're going to have some information available at Explore so students can learn more about each of our Magnet Academies. And currently the application is open and it will remain open until October 22nd. So our young people have plenty of time to get those applications in. It's an online application this year, and it's available at our website on the Magnet Academy page. The second really important part about Explore is course registration as they enter their freshman year will be coming up in late December. So as they experience Explore, they're going to have an opportunity to kind of see how some of our electives and some of our other courses would apply and would really cultivate the interests that they start developing and they're exploring through the Explore event and then our other career exploration activities.
So some ways to support your students, and then I see a couple questions that we can answer before our panelists, our business partners start speaking. But you can review the career cluster results in Naviance together. So again, your student will be completing that over the next week and a half. And they log into Naviance through Clever on their U46 Chromebook. Talk to them about what careers they're interested in and what that might mean as far as classes for their future, if they're interested in magnet academies, and prepare them to talk to their high school counselor about their interest during course registration. So as that post lesson, so that 8th period class on the day of Explore, students are gonna connect what they learned during the day from the different career panelists, and then really start to look at what kind of things might they be interested in taking while they're in high school. So it's a great conversation to have with your student. And then it's always a really great experience to share with your student, you know, your career journey or in your family, different career journeys that people have taken to get where they're at, and what they've liked and maybe even disliked about some of their careers, so that students can learn a little bit more and really have that personalized touch as far as careers go. So a couple of questions, Mitchell. Do the academies are changing? Does the current website have the old or new curriculum?
Currently, those academies are pending approval. So we have both of the names on there. We have the current academy because those students are going to be able to continue their pathway throughout as it was normally planned. And then pending approval, the transition academies are on there as well, so that our young people who would start this academy starting next year, that's on there as well, so that they can learn about those academies also. I'm going to run through a couple other questions that I see popped up in the Q&A here. So one question that I have is, can they attend a session that falls during their lunch period? We pretty intentionally doubled up some of the sessions that were possibly going to fall during lunch periods. So it's likely that they might have access to that session at a different time. However, if that does become an issue, what they can do is talk to their counselor, and we're looking at having the opportunity for some of our young people that want to see those webinars that are only offered during their lunch period due to their schedule, able to view that and eat lunch in a separate environment so that they can take advantage of that as well. Another question that I have here is, when will Explore take place for the student? Explore is scheduled to take place October 7th. October 7th is when we are having Explore. It's going to be a normal school day. Students will report to school as normal. Okay. So with that being said, I'm going to check in with Nancy. Nancy, are you able to hear, and is your video working currently?
I am not able to have video, but I can. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Wonderful. Peter, I'm just going to check in with my panelists. Are you able to have audio?
This is Pete. I have audio. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. And Yvonne, do you have audio?
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, then I have audio.
Okay, for some reason, we do not have video, but we can go ahead, Mitchell, if you'd like for us to.
Yeah, that would be great. just to our audience, as you think of some questions that you'd like to have answered, you can go ahead and enter them into the Q&A, and we'll continue to answer those. If it's something that requires a longer discussion piece, we'll wait till the end and then answer it then. But I'd like to present Nancy Coleman, who will introduce our guests, and they will share a little bit about how our local business community has been such an asset in partnering on this great event, and how it's going to be just a really incredible resource for our young people. So with that, Nancy, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mitchell. We are very excited to be with you tonight. We have been working with U46 and the Explore event for over 5 years. As the executive director for the Alignment Collaborative for Education, I'd like to welcome some panelists tonight to talk about the event and why there is such an investment from the business community in offering this Explore experience to our 8th grade students. I first have Yvonne Irving joining us from KCT Credit Union. Yvonne serves as the Vice President for Community Business Development, and she will be talking about this from different aspects. She's actually worked with the event since its conception and can tell you a little bit how it's unfolded and grown over the last few years. We also have Peter Sikorsky joining us. He is the Chief Financial Officer for Western Smokehouse Partners, but more importantly to us, he is the chair of the Alignment Collaborative for Education and has worked with us to build this network of over 185 business and community partners supporting U46 students. So what I'd like to do is kick it off tonight, Peter, with you. If you could welcome the parents also and talk about why we feel that this event is a priority and that we have as strong of business backing behind this event as we do.
Sure. Thank you, Nancy. Welcome, everyone. I appreciate you joining us this evening, and I'm pleased to be part of this process for several years now. And I speak from the standpoint of a owner of a business in the community, as well as a resident in the community. And fundamentally, what we're looking to do, of course, is have our students at this stage prior school begin to be aware of what the community is around them outside of school. If I think back to when I was in 8th grade, I was not necessarily totally aware of the broader world around me. And so I believe this is really the exposure to that world around you, and also the beginning of the thought process of, hey, over the next 4 years, what am I going to be doing to set myself up for success as we move into post-high school time? So, from the timing standpoint, that's why doing this in 8th grade makes the most sense, because our kids are at that point, and I have children that are this age as well, and they're at that point where they're just starting to explore that world around them. And so exposing them to this now is the right timing. In terms of why the business community cares, the business community has really kind of moved. Business community is always concerned about staffing and current staffing, there's no doubt, but much more over the last 5 to 10 years, businesses have moved to a community-based look at their workforce, and they're really looking for a connection to the community where their business is going to be based, because that's a connection not only to their customers, but to their future workforce. And businesses aren't just so concerned about staffing today as they're concerned about sustainable staffing for the next really 10, 20, 30 years, because they're making investments in the community, and they want to know they have alignment with that community, because they would much rather get all of their employees from that community directly. So that's why businesses care. It's all about the connection to the community, and a look past today's staffing questions, and all about what does staffing look like for a sustainable business for the next several decades. Thanks
so much, Peter. Again, we are very pleased to have this event for you. And I think, as Peter talked about, this is really important to the future workforce of our region, but it's also really important to you and as parents and with your students, because again, the more information that students can gain during the middle school experience into the high school experience, the better decisions they can make upon graduation about what their next steps are. So I want to turn it over to Yvonne just for a minute. Yvonne, can you talk about having done this experience live at the Sears Center and having done it in a virtual setting like we would do at this time? Can you talk a little bit about what the students will experience as part of Explore?
Sure. Thank you, Nancy. First of all, I want to welcome everyone here this evening. We appreciate you taking your time to listen to what we're looking to do from a business standpoint, as business leaders, as well as a school district. The first thing I want to do, though, was echo what Peter had said, is that there action to workforce, local businesses, and the community and education. Businesses need to be invested in their local school districts and in that education, and events like this that support the students in their career path, because as business owners and businesses in the area, we are in need of a strong pool of local workers, right? And I want to say a couple years ago, when we were looking at the onset of the original expo, Dr. Sam, who is the president of Elgin Community College, gave us some statistics, and they were pretty impressive, especially in the Elgin area, that over 70%, close to 80% of students who go to school in the area stay, work, and have their families and stay in that area post high school. That's a big number. And because of that, local businesses look to those numbers because, as Peter mentioned, we're looking at workforce now and in the future. As far as the expo and what to expect, I will say I was at the original kickoff with that many students. I'll be honest with you, it's a little maddening coming through, but exciting because they got to have a hands-on real experience. We were all about having that feel, that look, that touch. I mean, we brought in equipment from the city of Elgin. We brought in, they learned about, nursing and things where they can kind of see what it's like to work on patients. And so that was the initial expo, and it was wonderful for them to get that look and feel. However, as we transitioned to virtual, we thought that experience would be hindered because they didn't get the hands-on. But I will say we had it earlier this year, and it was probably even more successful than the in-person because they really got to listen to specifically to people in those career paths, right? What their experience was, whether they had continued education or went right after school to that occupation, to that career. And they got to hear directly from those people what it takes, and got to ask questions, which I think was pretty amazing because when you're at a site as big as a Sears Center, it's wonderful, but I think the kids didn't get to ask those questions, or may have been, kind of hindered in asking those questions. But in this virtual session, they were asking specific questions, like what classes do I have to take? I happen to be in the aerospace one, which is near and dear to my heart because my son's an aerospace engineer, but there was someone there from Purdue University that had said, this is how many years of math you would have to take. This is what it looks like. And then you had a pilot there who just went to high school and started his career right out of high school by taking flying lessons. And they were asking, where do I start taking flying lessons? So to be able to see that and them experience it, I thought it was a valuable lesson, and their takeaways, I think, were more than they expected. And this is something that they'll remember because it was definitely geared towards them and what they needed to hear and what they wanted to hear.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. We do have one other panelist joining us tonight, Herb Porter. is joining us as a trustee from the Village of Hanover Park. We are working on audio issues with him, and so hopefully he can join us in just a minute. But Herb, again, has also participated in this event for multiple years. And one of the things that's very exciting about this event too is it not only pulls, from the Elgin area, but it also pulls career professionals from Streamwood, Bartlett, Hanover Park. We basically cover most of the 11 communities under U46. And again, the reason why many of these companies participate, many of the organizations that we have participating, are because they are interested in helping students make the right choices as they go through their high school experiences. Because as parents, we know post-secondary education is very expensive. We want to be sure that we can get students is close. Again, you can still change your major 3 or 4 times, but we are hoping that we get students far enough in the process that they really know what they want to do into a certain extent before they leave high school. And one of the things that we also are trying to do as U46 is transitioning to educational pathways is to start with events like Explore to introduce students to multiple careers across like 16 industry clusters. But then as they progress through their high school experience, they receive more and more what I call more centered work-based learning opportunities like job shadowing, internships, career panels that specifically focus on, the 4 different types of engineering if your child happens to be interested in that. So again, the whole experience is to build over time. And really the Explore event is kind of the kickoff to all of this, where we bring in a large portion of the business community to assist. One of the things that I'd like for Yvonne and Peter to address next is, Yvonne, you'll be a good one to address this because you have just had your son graduate from Purdue. Talk a little bit about why it's important to understand early in the high school experience what your career interests possibly are, because it does make a difference in the courses that you choose to take while you're in high school. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Sure. Yeah, to be given that kind of information early on is so critical, because as they go through their high school years, you really want to make sure that you are taking the right classes, going on the path that you want to take. And part of what they also pick up from the expo is, what are the skill sets and those capabilities that are needed to be successful post high school years. And so it was critical, because I know that when my son had started college, and he didn't go through he wasn't in the Elder School District, and they didn't have this career pathways. And he struggled quite a bit trying to get his footing on what direction he was taking. He thought that he had taken enough of the math courses that were required for this degree, and come to find out that he hadn't done that. And honestly, it does affect you in the long run, because he ended up having to, he didn't graduate in the 4 years, he took an additional semester. And as Nancy had mentioned, for a lot of families, including myself, it's a cost, it's very expensive. And when you're adding, more time onto your schooling, that might not entail you getting, whether it's scholarship or assistance, it's costly. And, as we all know, going to school, whether it's, it's high school education or going on to college, this is an investment for our children. And as parents, as business leaders, as business owners, we want a return on that investment, right? And so we are looking for those kids to take what they've learned and hopefully have been given that guidance like they're getting now, and and we're getting that return on the investment, right? And being hired locally, being paid well for that skill set. That's the best part of it, is that, you know, they're gaining experience that will take them through whatever career path they choose. But having that, I would say, I wish the school district we were in had this early on, because it would have given him the guidance he needed to stay on track post high school. So for those parents, I say kudos to you for being here, because you want to look at and have these discussions. And it doesn't mean because they choose a career today that that's what they need to stick to either. And I think what also this opens them up to is that I work for a financial institution, but I don't do the financial piece of it. I am marketing and business development. So they learn also that within organizations, within that career path, it can go in different directions. It could be, you know, one specialty or another. And as they're taking those classes, they'll learn that as well.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. So lots of decisions become very important as we begin that transition from the 8th grade to high school. One of the things that I wanted to draw to the parents' attention is that underneath each one of the career clusters or pathways, there will be multiple sessions that Alexa showed you earlier that students can choose from. Each one of those sessions features 3 different careers that are all related to each other underneath that cluster. For example, in healthcare, there is physician, physician's assistant, nursing, and medical imaging. What's very important to that, and what we're trying to show students, is that there are a world of occupations under healthcare. Some require a certificate, some require an associate degree, some require all the way to a doctorate. We want to be able to show students all the possibilities and allow them to talk to professionals that serve in all those different occupations, so that they can see the full pathway of healthcare, not just a nurse or not just a doctor. So you'll see healthcare offered several different times throughout the day. On October 7th, you'll see the same thing for engineering, manufacturing, welding, all of those related types of occupations. They won't learn about just one type of engineering if they're in a session. They very likely will learn about civil engineering, aerospace engineering, design, mechanical engineering, because they will be talking to people that do that job every day. And I think that's real important. It's early in their whole decision-making process, if they're interested in engineering, to make any decisions about what their specialty or discipline would be. This is more about them understanding that there are all these different types of engineering. And as they progress through their high school experience, they'll learn more about those experiences. One of the things we're recommending too is within each one of these disciplines, or within a lot of these career areas, we have within U46's curriculum, career and technical education courses that support some of these particular careers. For example, engineering, there's a PLTW program in our high schools that allows students to actually take engineering related courses. There's also like the STEM Academy that is currently in Bartlett that highly encourages engineering courses. Again, these are electives, but it's part of that decision-making process. If they can engage in those courses early in their high school experience, it's much easier for them to see if that's a career of interest to them, if that's something that they would like to pursue after they leave the high school experience. So all of those programs build on each other so that hopefully by the time they leave high school, they've got a great foundation in what they would like to achieve. I wanted to just bring up a couple of other things. Peter, I would like for you to talk a little bit about alignment in general and why we are placing such a priority, and you've said a little bit about this, on educational pathways and the work and what we're trying to show students, and why the community wants to be able to partner with U46 to give students those experiences.
Sure thing. Yeah, it really comes back to this concept that we've talked about called communities of choice. And Yvonne hit on this as well. A community of choice is one where you can raise a family, they can go to school, they can get a job, and then they can raise their own families and be multi-generational. And those communities are strong because the business community, the civic community, the nonprofit community, and the educational community all pull together around a set of common goals. And that's really what alignment is doing, is pulling all of those various parties together for the goal of creating a community of choice within the U46 community. We want people to want to live in U46 that don't live there today because we have a more advanced platform for families to build off of. We want families that are currently in U46 to continue to live there. And it really ties everything together down to, the technology that our civic communities are rolling out, trying to make sure that we have proper fiber optic access, and everyone has access to the internet, and all of these things that you kind of see potentially as disjointed types of things going on within our community really all tie together to making it a community of choice. And that's really why the businesses care, because if you're going to have a business in a community, you don't do it for the next 5 years, you do it for the next 50 years, the next 100 years. And businesses want to make sure that they have that same level of commitment that they're putting into the community from the educational partners, from other businesses, because the diversity of businesses within the community makes a big difference as well, and from the civic organizations themselves, and making sure that the government is rallied around driving a good environment for business. So it really all kind of ties together, and that's what alignment strives to do, is take each of those parties that says, hey, I want to make this a community of choice, and I want to invest in U46 as part of that process. How do I get involved? How do I make a positive impact? And alignment kind of helps pull everyone together all around that common goal of building a really strong educational component within the community.
Thank you, Peter. Also now have Herb. I believe Herb has audio with us now. Herb, welcome. Thank you for representing the Village of Hanover Park tonight. And what I would like for you to address is why we are seeing this kind of support from the municipalities, from Hanover Park, from Bartlett, from Streamwood, from Elgin. Why is this whole effort important to the municipalities under the U46 community?
Well, thank you, Nancy, and thank you to my fellow panelists, and thank you, Mitch, and U46. My name is Herb Porter, and I am a trustee for the Village of Hanover Park. And one of the reasons why Hanover Park thought it was so important for us to be involved in the alignment for education is that for collaborative education, is that we knew that our young people, as they are growing up, were very talented and had a lot of value to our community. And in an effort, as Peter has said, in our connected community, in an effort to be a community of choice, we would like to see our young people, our talented people, stay in the community to raise the profile of Hanover Park. What many people don't realize, Nancy, is that within each municipality, there are dozens of career choices that maybe a young person hasn't considered. And if you think about the possibility of living in your hometown, helping to raise your hometown, helping to improve and advance your hometown, well, that can be an exciting prospect for many people. We have opportunities from as various and diverse as public works, the fire and police department, to our IT, administration, finance, human resources, public planning, engineering, administration, and of course, government and policy making. So that is a very wide range of career choices that are available to young people. And what we want to do is to make sure that we're making the proper investment in the education of our young people, so that when they go to high school, when they go to college, that they look at returning to their hometown, being hometown proud, and knowing that there are opportunities, not only in the private sector, but also in the public and the governmental sector, where they can earn decent livings, wage earner livings, and can be duly compensated for their efforts and for their talents and their skills. So that is one of the reasons why we are so involved and committed to alignment.
Thank you, Herb. We appreciate that. And again, we really do value our municipalities very much and the support they give to alignment. They're one of the first places where we've been able to build, explore career panelists, professionals, internship programs, all sorts of opportunities, as Herb said, are available under our municipalities that are represented under the U46 community. I'd like to turn it over at this point, Mitchell, if it's okay, to see if we have any questions from parents, and then we'll do just wrap up comments from the panelists.
Definitely, Nancy. Go ahead and keep putting those questions in the Q&A. We're ready to answer them as they come up. So yeah, thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Peter and Herb and Yvonne. Really appreciate your statements and sentiments there. I think one thing that's just really critical for us to acknowledge is that all of this work is done with equity in mind. So we want to make sure that all these opportunities are available to every one of our students, and we put in systems and processes to ensure that each one of our students can take advantage of all of these things, and really just build a really bright future. Each of our pathways that we work on is essentially scalable. So students find interests, and they are all aligned with very high wage, high demand careers that the Elgin area is honestly just screaming for. There's so many opportunities right now for our young people that having these partnerships with our local business community is just critical, so that they understand just all the opportunities that there are. It's easy for us to do research, and we all identify some of the very common careers. But as a young person, it's important to hear from others so that you learn more about the other career pathways that they can pursue, either going to ECC or another post-secondary institution, maybe perhaps earning an industry credential and trying out the workforce right away, earning a high wage job that they can continue to be promoted in, and possibly continue earning those additional credentials. It's really truly a total package, and there's literally no limit to what our students can achieve once they start on these directed paths.
Thank you, Mitchell. We do have one question or in the chat box. It said, I missed the beginning of the session. That is not a problem. We'll catch you up. And the question is, if a child is interested in a field of work, what is next? That is a great question. It will start on October 7th. So whatever field of work your child is interested in, there will be a matchup at a certain period, most likely to that field. And I don't know if you want to tell me what that field is, but anyway, let's just assume that it is financial services, and they're interested. They're not sure what they want to do. Do they want to be an investment person? Do they want to do accounting? Are they more interested in, actuarial science or human resources? Well, there are sessions in financial services and business that students can attend. There are sessions specifically in engineering, environmental science, healthcare, human services, education. We cannot promote enough how important it is that we try to generate our next decade, really 2 decades of teachers that we need for the area. So basically, whatever your student is interested in, we most likely, under these 75 careers that are going to be featured, have a match or a very close match to that career. Alexa, that's a great question. If for some reason a student or a parent does have a question, they can't find a match for what they're interested in based on the 75 careers that are being offered, who should they contact to get advice on what would be the best fit for them?
All right, thanks, Nancy. So you definitely want to have your student reach out to their school counselor at the respective middle school. Their school counselors have been very involved in this process and in working with students with the career clusters and looking at even classes for the future that they might be interested in. So they are the best person to reach out to.
Great.
Correct. I'd like to add a little piece there. So all of our young people have access to a platform called Naviance. We mentioned it earlier, but it is really a one-stop shop for not only exploring careers, exploring post-secondary education opportunities, but also self-exploration, where they can take inventories about their interests and their aptitudes to see which cluster and which career might be an interesting thing for them to explore. So as they go through, they can utilize that platform, and it stays with them through high school to build a portfolio and continue editing and adding to it as they refine what their interests and their aptitudes are and how it might align to a clear pathway. So that way, as they build out this portfolio, by the time they are working on their post-secondary plan, what they want to do after high school, they have a really great amount of experiences that they've done, courses that they've taken, and things that they've learned about themselves to make a really educated choice. Another question that we have, are the sessions virtual? Is this something they do online? That is correct. Your student will be in the building. They will be at the middle schools in the classroom. However, they will be, through the choices that they made, they'll be logging on to these virtual sessions, utilizing some earbuds so that they can listen to the session, and that's how they will be participating.
Great, thank you, Mitchell. There's also a question I think that may be best addressed by you also. It's from John. Does the career pathway parallel the U46 academies? Is it one or the other? Can you explain how that's going to work as U46 transitions to pathways?
Yeah, definitely. So both are really fantastic programs. Both have fantastic outcomes. The academies have been around for a little while longer. So in the academies, we have our 5 academies, and each year they admit 90 to 100 students per academy. These students will follow a very prescribed series of courses that are aligned to a theme. So in the academies, they have a very specific theme. And since you're applying as an 8th grader, you already have a pretty good idea of sort of the direction that you would like to take. And that academy aligns with it really well. Now, for a lot of young people, they might not have that quite figured out yet in 8th grade, and they decide that they are not going to pursue an academy, and they're in their local high school. This is where pathways really have their power. During that freshman year, they continue exploring, they take electives, they work with our counselors to further refine their experiences and answer some critical questions. Nancy provides work-based learning opportunities, career fairs. Hopefully, as this pandemic settles down, we can do more in-person field trips as opposed to just these virtual field trips. But nonetheless, we still have very, very, very high value career panels, college panels. And so that pathway becomes sort of a guide for them as they transition through their 4 years. And pathways are very flexible so that as they take those freshman courses, they can make a decision. I'm going to pivot a little bit. So maybe I tried out, a business course as a freshman. I enjoyed it, but I want to pivot. Now I'm going to take an accounting course as a sophomore. Business course was pretty foundational, but now they're refining their vision into accounting. And maybe accounting is where they really find their niche. So they take accounting 2, and then maybe they start looking at possibly taking some dual credit courses. So the pathways are a way for every single one of our students to have a really high outcome and have that flexibility throughout their 4 years with us so that they can have a really bright post-secondary future in whatever they should choose.
Great. Thank you so much, Mitch. And then there was the next question, when do pathways begin? Could you also address that question?
Sure. So I'm somewhat recent to the district. I'm just about to wrap up my first year here, and we've uh, been been weathering this pandemic and coming out stronger on the other end of it. So what we have planned is next year we're going to start offering our freshman seminar, where they'll be have an in-depth opportunity to learn more about pathways. This will happen through our counselors in our AVID program, so that they understand all about pathways. So the freshman year is all about exploration. Then they'll be able to start those pathways in earnest come sophomore year. That's the plan as we see it, but obviously things tend to pivot these days with all of the things that go on in the world. But there's no reason that our students won't still have access to some extremely rigorous coursework, clear outcomes, post-secondary credit, and some high-value industry certifications upon graduation.
Great, thank you, Mitchell. We also had one other question related to sporting activities after school hours. I would recommend there that you contact Alexa. Wouldn't the best thing too that should go through a guidance counselor if a student's got a question about that?
Yep, I would agree. I would look on the school's website, but also contact your student school counselor. They'll be able to point you in the right direction. Those offerings are going to vary somewhat by school and times and things like that. So that's really the best person to get your information from.
Great. Thank you so much, Alexa and Mitchell. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to closing comments. Yvonne, any last words about the event or any advice you have for parents?
The event is on October 7th. We're excited to have your student, your child join us. And I think what's important maybe to remember is that date, because I'm sure they will come home after school that day with excitement and be inquisitive and sharing with you what they think they might want to be doing, because they're going to be learning literally hearing about hundreds of different career opportunities, and and we're building the excitement for it. And I think if you're there to hear them when they get home and listen to what they like to do, then they could start that thinking about their classes and discussing with you what they might want to do. And we'll support them all the way through it.
That's great. Thank you, Yvonne, and thank you for all the time and the years that you've spent helping us develop this event. We greatly appreciate it, and the support of KCT Credit Union.
Thank you, Nancy.
And then Herb, any comments you have, advice for parents as they prepare for October 7th?
Excuse me. Yes, I would like to say that as they get ready for that they should talk with their kids about some of their interests. And then even further, they should contact their local communities, because there are a lot of internships, there are scholarships, there are youth programs. There are a lot of things that the kids can get involved in that can help them determine a career path. We understand that at this age, for elementary going into high school, and even for some high schoolers, it may be a little early for them to decide on a career path. But one of the things that we are just so stressing is that an education is just so important, because it prepares you to branch off in many different directions. And the more things that you experience, the more things that you look into, then it begins to narrow down some of the choices. Your opportunities begin to crystallize in front of you, and you find something where it just fits. And you say, oh, this is it. This is what I want to do. Them to visit their local municipalities, ask to visit the police station, ask to have a tour of the fire department, look at some of the other professional departments, and even some of the non-professional departments that exist right in your hometown. The kid may be very good with their hands. Maybe they grew up with an aptitude toward farming or gardening and that type of thing. There are opportunities that you wouldn't even imagine right in your own municipality. So explore your municipalities. They are a bevy of opportunities and information, and we are willing and able to talk with you. We're so excited when you bring your kids in to visit Visit a city council meeting, see what goes on there, have your children introduced, and just exposure. I think that's the important thing that we're talking about right now, is give your children the exposure to a lot of different variables, a lot of different opportunities. And I'm sure that at some point something will click and the light will go on and they'll say, hey, this is where I want to be. This is what I want to do. So keep your options open. Keep all of your opportunities in front of you, and best wishes to each and every family as you navigate with your child through this very exciting period in their lives.
Thank you, Herb, and thanks so much for the support from the Village of Hanover Park. Peter, I'm going to let you close us out tonight and then switch it over to Mitchell and Alexa, just to be sure we covered everything we were supposed to cover.
Perfect. Well, thank you again. I think Herb said it pretty well. There's a reason we call this event Explore, because it's about exploring really the world around us. And really the goal of this is to create more awareness of the world and create more dimensional thinkers, and have our kids be just that much more prepared to make great choices about what they want to do with themselves over the rest of their lives, not just the next year, not just the next 4 years, the next 20, 30, 40 years. So really this opportunity to explore is a great next step that U46 is helping set up to giving us this world of dimensional thinkers that are aware of the possibilities around them and ready to contribute in a way that is meaningful to them. And so we appreciate your engagement in that process.
Thank you, Peter. Alexa, Mitchell, I'm going to let you close us out.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, panelists, for joining us today. We really greatly appreciate it. We're really excited about October 7th, and we gave you an awful lot of information. The good news is we did the session, so this will be available for your resource. But an even quicker resource for you to check out is going to be our U46 Explore website. So on that website, we're going to continue to have our updates. We're going to have important links. All of the things will be on that site to keep you in the loop. So that's our main resource. When you have some of those other questions, you can always reach out to me through Let's Talk. You can also reach out to your local middle school counselor. They're a wealth of that local information that can help answer any questions that you or your student may have. And with that being said, Alexa, did you have any closing pieces you'd like to share?
No, just thank you for coming out, and to our business partners and parents. We really appreciate you, supporting your students.
Well, thank you so much. And I hope each and every one of you has a great evening. And I'm going to close it out now. And we'll say goodbye.
Thank you, Mitch. Thank you,
Bye.
Alexa.
Thank you.